So even though I'm a non-native speaker, I still managed to make about 6,000 Rand in 2 weeks at some point. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. So the last video that we did, Trish was explaining how you can get admitted into italki and how to apply. So let's assume that you've applied to italki or you are a teacher on italki, and now you're wondering, how do I attract as many students as possible? So I'm a non-native, quote-unquote non-native speaker, just because my passport is Zimbabwean, right? So even though I'm a non-native speaker, I still managed to make about 6,000 Rand in 2 weeks at some point, right? So that was when I was approaching close to 100 lessons. So on italki, it's quite important that the trial students who do book you, they always have to come back. So for this video, I'm going to talk about how you can make that happen, retain as many students as possible, right? So, alright, so the first thing that you can do to impress the students so that they come back starts even before the lesson. So when they send you a message, or if you get a lesson request, right, accept it, then immediately send them a message, right? Ask what level they are if it's not appearing on their profile, but most of the time it will actually appear on their profile. And then, or you can just message them, hey, thank you so much for booking with me, what level are you? Or, hey, thank you so much for booking a lesson with me, I will prepare a lesson for your level, right? So always make sure that your responses, or that you message the student as soon as possible, right? Because you don't want them to, well, you want to create the impression that you are very dedicated and that you're hardworking. So second thing would be for you to actually prepare a lesson plan. I know that sounds like it might be unnecessary, because it is, it's not required by anyone, but it really will show your student that they're in good hands, and it will make them feel like, ooh, this person is really organized, right? So because you have a TOEFL, I'm assuming that you know how to make a lesson plan. If not, there are many resources and templates online on how you can create a lesson plan, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You can even use Canva, right? I like to use Canva sometimes, especially if it's like a 30-minute or a 45-minute lesson, where I'll just inform the student what topic it is, the activities that they'll do, as well as any notes, right? So before your lesson, just think about this topic, what do you think of it, blah blah blah, right? And then the third thing that you can do to impress your student now starts when the lesson is actually happening, right? So one thing that will impress a student definitely is to have PPTs, and it will also help you as well, because it will make the lesson more organized, right? So prepare PPTs, make sure that you don't have to put a lot of information on the PPTs. It could even be just a picture, just to help guide the discussion, right? And then third one is that you make your lessons as dynamic as possible. So something I like to do, for example, is that for my hour-long lessons, that's enough time to have a 5-minute break. And for those 5-minute breaks, I'll play a funny clip that where the joke is based on some sort of English grammatical area, and then the student has to try and explain why it was funny, if it was a mistake that the person was saying that turned out to be funny, how was it wrong, how can you fix it, right? So yeah, make your lessons as interactive as possible and plan your lessons. And it's not as time consuming as you would think to plan lessons, because there are resources on the internet that you can buy. Next thing you have to do is give detailed feedback to the student after the lesson, right? So let's say you have a lesson, it went great, right? You were able to connect with the student. When you do give feedback after the lesson, make it as detailed as possible. So don't just say, hey, it was nice to hang out with you, I can't wait to see you again, you were a great speaker. No, actually be helpful, right? Talk about stuff that you noticed during the lesson. Maybe they were repeating the same mistake. For example, they leave out articles, right? So you could write something along. I'll put some examples of some that I write, right? So the structure that I usually like to do it is a positive, then what they need to work on, and then further encouragement. So something along the lines of, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you for our lesson. You're very energetic and talkative. I can tell you have a good grasp of grammar. And then the next paragraph would be something like, while you do have a good grasp of grammar, I noticed that you tend to mispronounce certain sounds, and then you can even like pick out which sounds they are mispronouncing using the IPA chart, right? That's something that I like to do. For my 30-minute lessons though, what I used to do at the beginning especially is that I would promise the student that they will know what their learning style is after the 30-minute trial lesson, right? So I will leave a link down below about which is a quiz that you can give your students, or you can just read up on it and see how to spot each type of learner, and then in your feedback you write something like, I noticed that when you're thinking of answers you tend to look up, which tells me that you may be a visual learner. As a visual learner, you learn best this way, and then you know, give them feedback about the best way that visual learners learn, right? I always do that in my feedback. All right, and then another thing that you could do, especially if you have a younger audience, well, not audience, but on italki, right? I think your profile is going to attract different people. So my profile, for example, will attracts mostly adults, right? While Trisha's profile, for example, attracts mostly children, right? So what you're going to do with that information is, if you are attracting mostly children, you have to find creative ways to make the student feel as if they've accomplished something, okay? So for me, with kids, I like to do things like a flip book, right? I'll try to put examples here. So it could be about anything. They can write the news, they can write little articles of what they're interested in, as long as they're practicing writing in their English. I had a teenage student, for example, and we made a flip book together where we summarized a manga, which is a Japanese comic book. So I read a few chapters. He had been reading it before me, right? So that was great. So all I did was work with him to create the flip book, to just show him, or rather to just give him a sense of how you can use different words in English, to try and give him like comprehension skills when he's reading stuff in English, because I mean, he is a teenager, he's still going to high school, so he'll need all those skills when he's studying English, when he goes to even university, or when he's finishing off his high school. So try to personalize your lessons as much as possible to the student's interest, okay? So for example, I have these other two kids and they really love Minecraft. So they started a YouTube channel where they live playing Minecraft, and tomorrow for our lesson I'll be showing them how to tag their YouTube videos, right? So you need to do a lot of stuff, or rather you need to be very creative and cater to the students' needs, right? So listen to what they say they're interested in and try to incorporate that in your lessons if you can. All right, and then the last thing that I'm going to say is that you need to establish rapport with your students. So the advantageous thing, or rather the reason why most the people who do use informal tutors like us, is because there's not that formal teacher-student relationship. So, you know, play games with the kids, students that you have, educational games, of course, right? Try to get to know your student better, but also this also depends on the student, so you don't want to try to get too personal with the student. But if a student is open to that, you know, talking about their life, etc., essentially try to be their friend is what I'm saying, right? But, you know, there should be some professional boundaries. But, you know, to some extent, you need to establish that rapport, because, you know, that creates a sense of loyalty, okay? So for me, for example, I know that I'm in good standing with my students, especially the kids, because they'll send me messages when we're out of hours. Sometimes I don't even respond because, I mean, they're little babies. But it's so cute, you know, it shows you that even after lessons, they still have you at the back of their mind, right? So meaning you have some sort of impact on them, right? So that's the sort of power that you want to have over your students, sort of, right? With adults, it's a little bit more difficult, right? So If you're watching this video right now and you haven't applied it, you still want to apply, you still have to make videos, I really do recommend that you aim towards the kids sector of it, because that's the most lucrative. So while my profile doesn't primarily attract children, they are still my most stable, even though I only have about 2 regular students, or rather 3 regular students who are not adults, but they are still my main source of income. So if you're making a video, you're thinking about doing this, I think you should focus on children. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I'm not sure how many tips those were. I hope those were useful. And by the way, if you're watching this video and you're like, why is she uploading this video when italki applications are closed? italki updates its closed, which subjects are closed and open every week or so. So just keep checking, keep refreshing. If not, I've heard that Powfish is still hiring, so just go ahead and try to do that. But I think this is quite a rewarding part-time career, right? Especially in these times that we're living in. So yeah, good luck, and I will see you guys next time.